What would you do if the person you gave everything to took it all and handed it to someone else? Not a stranger, not someone you never knew, but your best friend. Today's story is about a woman named Claire, and for 12 years, she did what so many of us do. She believed in someone. She sacrificed for someone. She built a life around someone. And then, one Tuesday morning in September, that someone looked her in the eyes and told her it was over. But here is the thing about Claire. She didn't cry in the corner. She didn't beg him to come back. She didn't fall apart. Claire waited. And when the moment came, she didn't just walk away. She took everything. Stay with me, because this story is one you are going to want to hear until the very last second. Claire Matthews was 24 years old when she met Daniel Holt at a small architecture firm in Charlotte, North Carolina. She had just gotten her degree in accounting. He had just been promoted to junior project manager. They met at a company happy hour on a rainy Friday afternoon. He spilled his drink on her shoes. She laughed instead of getting upset. He said, "I owe you dinner." She said, "You owe me new shoes first." He bought her the shoes, and then he bought her dinner. And 3 weeks later, he told her she was the most interesting woman he had ever met. Claire told me, when I first heard her story, that she never thought she was the type to fall fast. She was practical, organized. She made spreadsheets for her grocery lists. But Daniel had this way of making her feel like the only person in a room, like everything she said mattered, like she was truly seen. Within 6 months, they were living together. Within 2 years, they were engaged. And within 3 years, they were married in a small ceremony in the Blue Ridge Mountains, surrounded by 40 people who loved them. One of those 40 people was Mara. Mara Chen, Claire's best friend since the 7th grade. Mara was in the wedding, standing right there, in a dusty rose dress, holding Claire's bouquet while she slipped on her ring, smiling. I want you to remember that detail, because it matters more than almost anything else in this story. After the wedding, life moved forward the way life does. Claire kept her accounting job and worked her way up. Within 5 years, she was a senior financial analyst at a mid-size firm. Daniel started his own small architecture firm with a colleague. It was a risk, a big one, and Claire backed him, completely. She covered their mortgage for the first 8 months while the firm found its footing. She managed their household budget with military precision, so Daniel didn't have to worry about anything at home. She skipped vacations. She drove an older car. She delayed a promotion that would have required travel because Daniel needed her present while the business was fragile. People do this for each other. That is what love looks like sometimes. Quiet, unglamorous sacrifice. Claire understood that. What she did not understand was that Daniel had stopped seeing the sacrifice a long time ago. By year 7 of their marriage, the firm was doing well. Daniel was bringing home real money. They upgraded the house. They finally took a vacation to Portugal. And on the surface, everything looked fine. But something had shifted. Claire could feel it. Not in a dramatic way. Not in fights or obvious distance. Just a cooling. Like a window left open in winter. The heat doesn't disappear all at once. It just slowly leaves. By year 10, Claire had been promoted to director of finance at her company. She had built something real, something of her own. But at home, things had continued to drift. Daniel worked later and later. Their conversations got shorter. Their weekends got busier in ways that somehow kept them apart, even when they were in the same house. Claire suggested couples counseling. Daniel said they didn't need it, that everything was fine, that she was overthinking. She suggested more date nights. He said he was too tired. She asked once, quietly, in their kitchen on a Sunday morning, if he was happy. He looked at her over his coffee mug and said, "Of course. Why would you ask that?" And she believed him. Because you believe the person you have spent a decade building a life with. Because to not believe them would mean asking a question she wasn't ready to answer. During this time, Mara was a constant. She and Claire had always been close, but as Claire's marriage got quieter, Mara became more present. Girls' nights, lunches, long phone calls. Mara was going through her own hard time, she said. A difficult breakup. feeling lost. Claire listened for hours. She showed up with wine and takeout. She was a good friend. What Claire did not know was that Mara had been showing up for Daniel too, in ways that had nothing to do with friendship. It started, they would later admit, about 18 months before Daniel told Claire the marriage was over. 18 months. That is 540 days of Claire coming home to a man who already belonged to someone else. 540 dinners and good mornings, and I love yous that were performances. 540 days of Mara calling her best friend to check in while carrying the secret that would destroy her. I want you to sit with that for a moment, because I think we can all recognize the particular cruelty of it. It was not just a betrayal, it was a coordinated, sustained, deeply personal demolition. And it ended on a Tuesday morning in September. Year 12. Claire had taken a rare day off work. She was home by 10 in the morning, planning to spend the day organizing the home office. Daniel was supposed to be at a client meeting. He was not at a client meeting. She heard his car in the driveway. She went to the window. He was sitting in the car, on the phone, not moving. When he finally came inside, he looked at her standing in the hallway, and something on his face just broke. Not sadness, not guilt. Something closer to relief. He sat her down at the kitchen table. The same kitchen table where they had planned their wedding, where they had eaten 1,000 meals, where she had made him coffee every morning for 12 years.
I've been seeing someone. I'm sorry. I'm in love. I want a divorce.
Claire told me she felt the room go cold, like someone had turned off the sun. She asked who. He hesitated. That hesitation told her everything she needed to know before he even said the name.
It's Mara.
2 words. 12 years. I am going to tell you what Claire did in that moment, because I think it says everything about who she is. She did not scream. She did not throw things. She did not call Mara right then and there and say every true thing that needed to be said.
I need you to leave the house for a few hours.
He left, and the moment the door closed, Claire sat down on the kitchen floor, and she let herself fall apart. Completely. Privately. For exactly 1 hour. She cried the way you only cry a few times in your whole life. The kind of crying that takes something out of you permanently. That comes from the deepest, most trusting part of you. And then, at the end of that hour, she washed her face. She made a call. Not to her mother, not to a friend, to her attorney. In the days and weeks that followed, a lot of people expected Claire to be destroyed. Her co-workers noticed she was quieter. Her family worried. Neighbors who heard the news offered casseroles and sympathy. And Claire accepted all of it. Politely, graciously, with a composure that made some people uncomfortable. Because composure, in those circumstances, makes people nervous. They expect grief to look messy, loud, visible. But Claire was not suppressing her grief. She was using it. She was turning it into something. Quietly, methodically. With 12 years of experience managing finances and planning for the future. The thing about being the person who handles the money in a marriage is that you know exactly where everything is. Claire knew every account, every investment, every asset. She had co-signed on the architecture firm. Her income had covered the mortgage for the first 8 months of their marriage and had contributed to the down payment on the house. She had documentation of every financial sacrifice she had made over 12 years. Spreadsheets, receipts, tax returns, contribution records. She had built the foundation of their life, and now she was going to make sure she left with her fair share of it. Before I tell you what Claire did next, I want to ask you something. If this story is making you feel something right now, if you are already leaning in, if you know you need to hear how this ends, then you are exactly who this channel is for. Hit subscribe right now while you are thinking about it. Because Served Cold is where we tell the stories that most people are too afraid to talk about. Stories about betrayal, about rebuilding, about what real justice actually looks like. New episodes every week. And trust me, you do not want to miss what is coming. Now, back to Claire. Her attorney's name was Sandra Voss. A woman in her mid-50s with reading glasses, she kept on a chain and a reputation for being absolutely ruthless in divorce proceedings. Claire had actually referred a colleague to Sandra 2 years before. She had always quietly admired her from a distance. Now she sat across from her in a leather chair and laid out 12 years of documentation on the conference room table.
You have been preparing for this for 12 years without knowing it.
Let's make sure it counts.
What followed was 6 months of legal proceedings that Daniel clearly did not see coming. He had expected the divorce to be manageable. He had expected Claire to be emotional, disorganized, eager to get it over with. He had not expected Sandra Voss. He had not expected the documentation. He had not expected Claire to arrive to every single meeting calm, prepared, and carrying printed financial timelines going back to year 1. The house was a joint asset, but Claire's documented financial contributions to the down payment and the mortgage gave her a significant claim. The architecture firm had been built during the marriage, and Claire had demonstrably supported it. Her legal team argued successfully for a share of its current value, their joint investment accounts, their retirement funds, every asset accumulated during 12 years of partnership. Daniel's attorney tried to argue that his business success was primarily his own effort. Sandra introduced 12 years of tax returns showing Claire's income stabilizing the household during every critical growth period. Daniel tried to negotiate. Claire did not negotiate. What Claire received in that settlement was this: the house. She kept the house. A substantial share of the firm's appraised value, half of every joint investment account, and a spousal support arrangement that reflected the career sacrifices she had made during the marriage. Daniel walked away from 12 years and the life Claire had helped build, with considerably less than he had planned. About 3 months after the settlement was finalized, Claire got a call. It was from a woman named Patricia, an interior designer, someone Claire did not know. Patricia had worked with Daniel's firm on a project about 2 years prior. She had heard through mutual contacts that the divorce had concluded, and she had something she thought Claire should know. Patricia told her that during the project, she had noticed something between Daniel and a woman who had come to visit the office occasionally. She had not said anything at the time because it was not her business, but she had also taken a photo, not on purpose. It was a wide shot of the office space for her portfolio, and in the background, just visible, were Daniel and Mara. The photo was dated. It was taken 14 months before Daniel told Claire the marriage was over. In other words, 2 months earlier than Daniel had admitted to anyone. 2 months earlier meant something very specific. It meant the timeline overlapped with a period when Mara had sat at Claire's kitchen table, crying about her own difficult breakup, and Claire had comforted her, and Mara had let her. I will let you sit with that. Claire did not call Mara when she saw the photo. She did not send an angry message. She did not post it anywhere. She simply saved it, filed it away, like the professional she was. And 6 weeks later, something happened that she had not planned for but had quietly anticipated. Mara called her. In the months since the divorce was announced, Mara had not reached out once. Not during the proceedings. Not after. Nothing. She had gone completely silent. Some people around her had whispered that she was giving Claire space. What she was doing was waiting for the storm to pass. And when she called, her voice was careful, rehearsed. She said she missed Claire. She said she knew that nothing she could say would make things right. But she wanted Claire to know that she and Daniel were serious, that they were happy, that she hoped someday they could find a way to... Claire let her finish, every single word. And then, very quietly, she said, Mara, I have one question for you. When you sat at my kitchen table 2 years ago and cried about your breakup, were you already seeing my husband? Silence. A very long silence. I thought so, Claire said, and she ended the call. That was the last time they ever spoke. Here is what Claire's life looked like 1 year after that Tuesday morning in September. She was living in the house. Her house. She had renovated the kitchen. New counters. New floors. She had taken down the wall between the dining room and the living room, the way she had always wanted to, and which Daniel had always said was too expensive. She had been promoted again. She was now VP of Finance at her company. The career she had partially slowed to support Daniel's firm had resumed at full speed. She had taken a trip to Japan with her sister, then a solo trip to Iceland the following spring. She sent me a photo from a black sand beach there, standing in a big coat, wind in her hair. She looked genuinely free. She had not started dating again. Not yet. She was not in a hurry. I spent 12 years making sure someone else was comfortable, she told me. I am spending some time making sure I am. You know what I realized, she told me. The best revenge is not ruining someone's life. It is building yours so well that theirs becomes irrelevant. I have thought about Claire's story a lot since she first shared it with me. Not because it is the most dramatic story I have ever heard, but because of what it reveals about something deeply human. We are taught that betrayal is supposed to break us, that the right response to that level of loss is collapse, grief, visible, public suffering. And Claire grieved. She grieved hard, privately, on her kitchen floor, for exactly 1 hour. But she did not let grief be the whole story. She let it be the beginning of one. There is a kind of courage in that which does not get talked about enough. The courage to stop performing your pain for people who caused it. The courage to say, I am not going to make this easier on you by falling apart. I am going to make it harder on you by getting up. 12 years. 12 years of mortgage payments and career sacrifices and midnight conversations and quiet support. 12 years of being the foundation someone else built their dream on. And when they tried to take that dream and walk away with it, she reminded them very calmly, very legally, and very thoroughly that foundations have value too. Her name was Claire, and she took everything. That is the story for today. If you made it this far, you already know what this channel is about. We tell the stories that remind you that patience is a weapon, that silence can be a strategy, that the people who hurt you rarely see what is coming. If Claire's story hit you somewhere real, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you are not subscribed yet, this is the moment. Hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. New stories every week. Real betrayals, real rebuilding, real justice. This is Served Cold, and we are just getting started.